There we go. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Roger House, and I'm going to be your facilitator today. And we're going to be talking about the 5 steps to rekindling the intimacy in your relationship. And this is a very impromptu webinar. So if you want to speak out, go ahead at any time because I want to keep this moving, but I also want to hear comments from you guys. So anybody that wants to speak, go ahead and jump in at any time.
Okay.
So with that, what are we going to be talking about? First of all, a lot of times we don't really understand what intimacy is in the first place. And so I want to kind of go over what intimacy is. And then I'm going to go into the 4 forms of intimacy that I see that there are. Now, in doing my study, I found that there's people that define intimacy in at least 9 to 15 different categories. And so I want to go into the 4 that I see are beneficial for you guys. And then we'll finally get into the 5 steps of rekindling your intimacy. So you'll get a step-by-step of what you need to do to build intimacy within your relationship. And then what's stopping the intimacy in your life and why you haven't been able to get it up to now. And then I'm also going to finish by having a plan that you're going to be able to use that'll give you a step-by-step program on what to do to make your intimacy in your world that much better. So what is intimacy? One of the things that I found that so many people say, into me see. And I really like that because that is the core of everything I'm going to be talking about today. So if you think about intimacy, you want to think about it as into you as a person, people can see you. It's blending the hearts of not just you and your partner, but with my clients, I really have an intimate relationship with them. And the reason being is what I'm going to be teaching you today. I use that on having an intimate relationship with my clients. And what we do is we want people to see into you, and so that they can see who you really are. Hi, Gary. So, oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. Intimacy is something that makes you feel alive. A lot of times what happens with us is we think that intimacy is a destination. It is a place, we think that it's a place that we need to get to. But reality is intimacy is something that is a process. It's something that you move forward by doing different things that will bring intimacy into your life. So it's not something that, okay, now I've done all this, now I'm intimate. No, it is a process that's a continued process. Now, like I said, intimacy is something that so many different people define it in different ways. And what I want to show you is that it has 4 different forms of intimacy. There's the intellectual, there's the experiential, and there's the emotional, and then there's the physical. So I'm going to go through those one by one so you get an idea of how you can build intimacy within your world. So the first one, the intellectual, is a lot of times when this is the one that I really build a lot with my clients. And it's because I get to know what your thoughts are, what your ideas, what your dreams are, what things that you're struggling with, and what your opinions are. And one of the things about intimacy is you do not have to agree with someone in order to have intimacy with them. You can both have 2 different opinions, It's a matter of respecting each other's opinion. And so intellectually, you talk about the things in your life that are important to you, that it may be important to the person that you're working with, trying to build an intimate relationship with, and that way you can start sharing with each other, which builds an intimate relationship. Then there's the experiential intimacy. Now, experiential is something that my partner and I, we do it quite often. So this year, what we ended up doing was we have a huge patio in the back of our yard, or back of our house, I should say, and it's got a lot of deck, and that decking needed to get re-stained. And so what we did was together we started creating a better deck out there. I had specific things I had to do, and she had specific things she had to do. And we did them together. We kind of danced together. We didn't say a lot, but we did a lot of things together. And so like when you're with a partner or with somebody that you want to get intimate with, you can just do something together. It's kind of a dance in itself of sharing what you're doing with another person and getting your feelings out there so that you have the mutuality of working together so that it becomes a dance. Because a lot of times in relationships, you forget to dance. You forget to bring the playful side of you out. And experiential doesn't mean that you get focused in on just the project. You make it fun. You know, one of the things that we ourselves did was we did a lot of playful things. And I just happen to think, I'm going to show you guys. Well, I don't know if I can right now. I'll show it after we're all done. But we made a calendar together. And this calendar was an experiential calendar. And what we did was we did different things for each month that were really playful. And it looked like neither one of us had clothes on. Now that's really kind of sad, especially when you got a guy like me. You know, I'm kind of overweight, and I shouldn't say kind of, I am overweight. But nonetheless, we had a great time together. And we made this beautiful calendar that I have here, and she has one. And it's to remind us of how playful we can be in our experiential part of our world and bringing intimacy into it without even having to do anything major. Just take our picture. And so our third way of intimacy is the one that most of us look at as our secondary intimacy part of us. It's our feelings, it's sharing our feelings with another person. It's us really being very vulnerable of sharing who we are, what we're afraid of, what we love, what our feelings are about everything. Now, with this one, this is one that majority of us men have a hard time with. And the reason being is we have grown up, or at least my age, we've grown up not to show your feelings. You know, and I was in the Marine Corps, and you didn't show your feelings in the Marine Corps. But now I've opened up and learned to share the emotional side of me with my partner, and that in itself starts bringing us to a different place in our world. And then the fourth one, the physical one, and this is the one that most people, when you ask about intimacy, they think that this is all about sex. And physical intimacy is far more than sex. It's that brush of the arm as you walk by, or it is just as you come close to someone, you put your hands on their neck and massage their neck. You know, give them a little neck rub, or holding hands. And it's pretty much just anything that you can do to show that loving intention that you have for that other person. And what that does is that just breaks down the walls so that you can enjoy each other and just be with each other. And it's so those are the 4 forms of intimacy. At this time, is there anyone that has any questions at this time? Okay, well then we'll get into the meat of what you came here for. The 5 steps to rekindling your intimacy in your relationship. We're going to go through each and every one of these steps one by one. So don't worry if you're taking notes, don't worry, you're going to be able to go through each and every one of these. So the first step is unconditional love. A lot of times we have love for another person, but that love has got expectations behind it. So I'll love you if you do this, or I'll love you if you show me that. And a lot of times what we look at is we have that, what we think is unconditional love, but it's really, we have a condition behind it. And so when you go into your first step, which is to show unconditional love, it is not about sex. Like I was talking about earlier here, is that's only one form of intimacy. But when, like for myself now, when I give unconditional love to my clients, they know that I have a love for them, that they respect that, and they give me every bit of information I need to help them. And so when you give someone unconditional love, you allow them to express themselves and not put any kind of conditions, any kind of expectations on it. And so from our first step, we move into our second one, which is to open up and be vulnerable. And when we go into vulnerability, this is where most people shut down. So when you have a partner and you feel like they're mean to you, they're rude to you, or whatever there may be to them or with them, you have a hard time being vulnerable, being open. But when you can openly get yourself so you're unguarded, you can open your heart, your mind, and your soul, you would start opening up your partner at the same time. And if you notice, their vulnerability happens when you share trust completely. Now, a lot of times people say, well, how can I trust him or how can I trust her, when they are not being trustworthy? Well, the part that you want to start trusting is the part of them that's showing up in your relationship. And the more you start to trust them in how they're showing up in the relationship, the more that you can start building that trust between you, which is going to make your life and their life so much easier. Being exposed, most people don't want to show their emotions, their feelings. They may give their thoughts, but feelings, how do we do that? And so basically what happens is we shut ourselves down. And then our partner sees that we're shut down, so they start shutting down. And then we have that spiral going straight down the tubes, and nobody wins. Nobody gets any kind of intimate relationship whatsoever. And everything becomes a wall. So when we start building that wall, and that's where most people are at, is they have a wall in front of them. The problem with the wall is it stops us from even thinking about having an intimate relationship with someone else. And when we hit that wall, we usually have 2 choices. We have a choice of walking through that wall and being vulnerable and move ourselves forward, or we go back to what I call the comfort zone. But the problem with going back to the comfort zone is that that starts shrinking our world when we go back there. And so every time you hit a wall and you go back to your comfort zone starts to shrink. And when it starts to shrink, it gets to the point where you now don't have any love, you don't have any respect, or you don't have anything for your partner. And so when you have that wall, when you put that or eliminate that vulnerability within yourself, your partner no longer wants to be intimate with you either. And so what happens is you just now put yourself in a space where you don't have intimacy. And from our step 2 of being vulnerable and open, we move into step 3, which is keeping a positive intent. So a lot of times what happens to us is we play that blame game. Anybody ever done that where you start to feel something and your partner says something and then all of a sudden you stop what you're doing and you say, you made me feel this or you made me feel that. That's the blame game. And instead of that, assume that the person that you're with has good intentions. And when you start holding them that they have that good intentions, they're going to start showing you more and more of themselves. And so when you can do this, when you can keep that positive intent, you can start changing the relationship just by holding on to that positive intent. One of the things that happens here is I always tell my clients that the strongest energy wins. Not the meanest, not the roughest, not the toughest, but the strongest energy. So if you have a strong positive intent, your energy is going to drive the relationship. And so the more you can stand in that positive side of you, the more that you're going to get people changing to be working with you. You know, with this one, a lot of times I work with couples, and it's usually I work with the women because the men don't feel they need help. And so what happens there a lot of times is I teach the woman in the relationship how to keep that positive intent. And so when she starts to be in that positive side of herself, now all of a sudden the guy starts peeking in on the sessions with me, and I always get, I don't know what you're doing, but I want to see what's going on because my partner is changing and I want to know what's going on because I like that. I like it a lot. And this brings us to playing fair, which is step 4. Playing fair is not threatening to leave or withholding. Have any of you held back, you know, your love for another person or even sex or any of that kind of stuff? Or here's a big one that most people do and they don't even know they do it, is throw the insults back and forth. And a lot of times what happens there is it's what I call sniping. And sniping is just a real quick, smart-ass remark, and it's sniped back and forth. And what these are is this starts building that wall up that I was talking about earlier. And when you build up that wall, there's no place to go. And then all you do is snipe even more and get louder and louder. But playing fair is being reasonable and honest and honorable and get the judgment out of you so that you look at your partner with those loving eyes that you had when you first met them. Because everybody has gone through what I define as the honeymoon stage. And the honeymoon stage is you see everything about your partner as good, And then as you move forward, that good starts getting replaced with, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. And I do have a gift for you at the end of this that will explain that in more detail for you. But I don't want to get into that deeper here because it's a workshop by itself. But a lot of times what we do is we live our life with judgment about our partner, or we roll our eyes about or with our partner, and we talk about them behind their back. And these are all the things that stop the intimacy without even knowing it. And now here's another biggie. Now, step 5, I've had clients where they said, how do I forgive and forget? My partner cheated on me. My partner did all kinds of different things, and I can't live with that. Well, if you want your partner, you have to forgive and forget what they've done in the past. They've screwed up, but how many people here haven't screwed up? Forgive all the actions. Forgive all the things that have happened in the past and start as if today is day one. Every day, look at it as this is the start. And what we did yesterday was just a building of our intimacy for today. And as we grow in these 5 steps, we start to bring that intimacy back into our world. We start living with that honeymoon started to come stronger. But, one of the things that I asked myself, and so I just assume other people might have asked it for themselves also, but if it's just that easy, if it's so easy, why didn't I change? Why am I waiting until all hell breaks loose and there is no intimacy? It's all pure hell. We're only arguing with each other. And that's because what we do is we go into the default zone. And the default zone is basically that we live in a zone of there's no problem. We argue, yeah, every day, but so what? I'm so used to it now that it doesn't even bother me. I'm so comfortable. My basic needs are being met. I really don't care if everything else is wrong, and I personally don't know what else I should do. So that's what happens to us, is we just live with it, and it gets worse and worse and worse until you finally get to the point where you say, all right, I've had enough. And most people at this point, when they say they have enough, they say, well, maybe we should break up because this ain't working. And my thought on that is we need to go back to those 5 steps and get them built. And instead of blaming our partner, of yes, you did this to me, or yes, you cheated on me, or yes, you didn't, you just won't even look at me. You want to look at yourself. What I define as your own emotional fitness. Now, if you've gone through so far and you've seen the 5 steps that I told you to take, none of those steps were a step your partner was to take. Every one of those was a step that you yourself needed to take. And a lot of people are saying, I'm not willing to take those steps. And that's because that emotional fitness is not strong. And what I define that emotional fitness is the foundation of any great relationship. Is if you can start looking at your own emotional fitness. And what that emotional fitness is past experiences. So you may look at your partner and, like I just said, you forgive and forget, but how many of you are hanging on to that past? And not just the past of your relationship that you have, but also we hang on to the past of past relationships. Well, I'm never going to do that again because I had a partner in the past that did this or did that. But what's really, really good to know is your past is everything in your life beyond this. Your past is everything that you learned as a child, everything you learned as a teenager, every experience you've had, every relationship you've had. And so if that is not strong about your past, you're going to fail in intimacy. And old beliefs are even stronger. So those experiences bring us to a belief. And when we go into those beliefs, believe it or not, most of us that are running in our relationship are running in patterns that we developed from 0 to 7 years old. And we go into what I call defenses. And those defenses are created from when we were 0 to 7 years old. And that's how we're running our relationships, is through those old beliefs that we created as a child. And so a lot of times, one of the defenses we have is, a lot of times one of the people in the relationship wants truth. They just want you to tell them the truth. And the other one is usually just wants harmony. And so they're going to tell you anything that they think you want to hear. And so when you have those two defenses working against each other, now again, it starts going into that blame game. You did this, I did this, and so on and so forth. But now those old beliefs, when things start to change, oh my God, my partner's changing, or I'm changing, or our world is changing, we go into that fear. And that fear is that fear wall that I talked about earlier. It's that fear of something new is happening, something different is happening, or the fear of, oh my God, I can't express my feelings to my partner. I can't tell them what I believe. And all these fears, if we don't push through them, we start to shrink our comfort zone to the point where this is where we take our relationship and say, screw it, I don't want to be here anymore. But the problem with all that is, if we're not looking at this emotional fitness of ourselves, and we break off our relationship with our partner, the problem there is you're going into a new relationship with the old patterns still there. And so you're not going to get into your intimacy with any partner when these things are still hitting you. And what these do, what happens with this, with our past experiences, our beliefs, and our fears, those give us a lack of trust. And lack of trust builds more lack of trust, so that each and every person in the relationship doesn't trust the other one. And now that in itself stops you dead in your tracks. And there's no way that you're going to get into an intimate relationship if you don't have trust with each other. But the most important thing in this emotional fitness is what you think of yourself. Because what you think of yourself is truly what's driving what's going on in your relationship. It's what you think of yourself is holding on to those past experiences because I don't want to be hurt. Well, that in itself stops you from loving. That stops you cold from having an intimate relationship. Those old beliefs, I don't love anything beyond those old beliefs. Well, now again, everything there is just you trying to find something outside of yourself when it truly is in you. But since intimacy means into me, see, well, how can anyone see into you if you don't love yourself, if you don't show yourself, if you don't shine your emotions, if you don't share your emotions, your heart, your soul? When you start to open up and be the person that steps into the relationship the person that says, I want to be the driver of this. When you start to do that and stop holding on to the past fears, the past dreams, the dreams that could have been with someone else, the past dreams of what you wanted, and now because you're in this relationship, you don't have them anymore, or your past expectations of your partner and that they are the one that needs to do this, not me. I'm full of love. They aren't. No, they're a mirror image of what you are in your own relationship. And so they stop, you stop all the hopes and desires from creating a life that you really want. So intimacy begins when you yourself knows who you are, but not only who you are, but you're also willing to be vulnerable to the point where you're going to give that to someone else. But if you focus on what your partner's not doing, you're going to miss what you have already. One of the things that I always teach my clients to do is find even the little things that somebody that you're wanting to have an intimate relationship with is doing. When you start finding those little things and letting them know about them, those start to become bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where when you can focus on what your partner's doing right, the wrong things start to disappear. So if you can accept just the way you are, and not only accept the way you are, but accept how your partner is right now. And again, when you focus on your partner, if you're focusing in on what's wrong with them, you're going to find everything wrong with them. But if you start looking at what your partner is doing right, and I don't care if it's they put their shoes into the closet. I mean, it can be that simple. But if you make them feel like you see them, they're going to start seeing you back. Remember, intimacy is a journey. It's not a destination. So the plan I have for you, the plan that will make your life easier by using those steps, is first of all, master your own emotions. So when something happens in your world, you already have a defense that comes in. That defense tells you something that you constantly do over and over and over again. If you start to master your own emotions, if you start mastering that your partner's doing nothing to you, they're there being themselves, and you be yourself and understand your own emotions and start eliminating your fears. There's different techniques that you can use that start eliminating the fears that you have. When you can start eliminating the fears, those walls go down. When those walls go down, intimacy gets replaced, or it replaces it, I should say. When you change your beliefs, remember, our beliefs are beliefs that we've created from our birth to 7 years old, most of them, and especially in relationships. So if you start to believe differently, if you start looking at your partner and believe that your partner can be more intimate with you, you start to look for what they're doing to be more intimate, you're going to start seeing that in your world. Which, again, when you start to eliminate these fears and these beliefs and master your emotions, you're going to build the trust with your partner. And when you start to build that trust, you're going to be able to start letting down your guard to know what you really want. And when you can start really understanding what you want, because a lot of people say, I want intimacy. But what does that mean to you? What does intimacy mean? because I just told you how there's so many different ways of having an intimate relationship. You got to just start describing what your own relationship should look like, what kind of vision you want for your intimacy. Now, again, going back to my clients, when they're starting to create their vision already and they've just started working, what they're realizing is their vision is starting to come true. But not only that, when you can start learning what your partner wants and start helping them see their vision, the two of you together can dance and start creating intimacy while you're traveling towards your happily ever after. So many of us say, when I get to this destination, then I'll be happy. Or when, like the movies, you know, they hug and they kiss at the end of the movie and they say they live happily ever after. Now, that is only the beginning. The true essence of a great relationship is to start creating that intimacy as soon as you can. And that's by mastering those emotions, eliminating those fears, changing your beliefs, and building the trust between the two of you. You can build a happily ever after. And a lot of times, most people don't even know what their happily ever after is. And so when you both know what your vision is, you can start creating a happily ever after without guessing where you're going, because you have a map that'll take you exactly where you want to go. And you're going to have the intimacy while you're doing it. So rekindling your relationship is simply by doing that step-by-step plan to, first of all, learn about yourself, then your partner, and then your meaning of happily ever after. You guys, you know, I've done all the talking so far. And because of that, I do want to give you guys a gift. And I'm going to be emailing this to you. You all signed up to be on this webinar, so you're going to get the recording. You're also going to get this 6 steps to healing your relationship. And this one here is the foundation of how to really get your relationship healed. And it's really a very solid reading for you. And to get that one, you simply go to this. For those of you that don't want to wait for the email coming from me that'll have this on there, you can just take this down and you can go right over there right away and get it yourself. But also, the other thing is, because there's a lot of people that I know that said, man, this sounds good, but I wouldn't have the first idea of how to do this. I really want to give you help to get yourself moving into building the intimacy in your world. Now, I know a lot of you have already done a discovery call with me, and I know you got a lot of value out of it. But what I want to do is, everybody that's on this, that has registered for this webinar, I want you to go ahead and go to this link here, and I'll send that to you. And I really want to help you take those 5 steps and get intimacy started moving in your world, because everybody deserves to have intimacy in their world. And with that, what I want to do is I want to open it up to the group here and find out if anybody has any kind of questions, comments, concerns, anything that you want to address at this point. It looks like 913 is trying to talk, but I'm not hearing you. Does anybody have any other questions?
Can you hear me, Roger?
There you are, and now I can hear you.
Yeah, this is Olivia.
Hi, Olivia.
Yes, hi. So I just, I'm just wondering how, trust, building a trust, it takes time, right?
Absolutely.
And I have the belief that maybe my defense is not to trust until I'm sure I can trust the other person, and so maybe it's a good thing.
Well,
How long does it take to trust another person?
well, Olivia, that's a good question, but it's kind of like which goes first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
And so it's the way I see it, Olivia, is that you take those steps forward of trusting that person. And trust does not mean that you have to give all of your trust to them in the beginning. Trust is nothing more than if they say that they're going to call you at such and such a time, that
Yes.
you trust that they're going to call you at that time. So you want to build your trust little by little, step by step.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're doing that wait and see. And what happens with the wait and see is we get a spiral down, because if you're waiting and seeing, well, so are they. And, well, I'm not going to do anything until she does something. And then if she, well, I'm not doing anything until he does something.
Yeah.
Well, now what happens there is you're at a stalemate. So if you start taking the small steps to bring that trust, show that person that you're starting to trust them.
Okay.
And it's starting with the small stuff.
Okay.
You know, it's not trusting them with your life. It's not trusting them to do something that in your mind is so important. Those are not how you build the trust. Good question, Olivia. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So give the person respond if he says something and he does it. Let him know that I acknowledge it, and let him know that I appreciate it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And let him know that trust is something that's really important to you.
Okay. And let
And
him
so
know.
you again, the
Okay.
more open you can be with another person, the more intimate you can be.
Okay.
And intimacy is not all about sex, like we talked about in the beginning there.
Okay.
I have intimate relationships with all of my clients.
Okay.
And I have a trust with them, and they have a trust with me that's unbreakable.
Okay, so then it's
And the reason for that is that we want to have that to make sure that it's intimate.
You don't do it
And if
on
we
Monday,
have
we
that
have all the
intimacy,
questions till fall.
then what happens is everybody wins.
Yes, I can see it. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Nice quiet group.
Mhm.
Lois, did you have anything to say? And the reason I'm kind of seeing you is I see your beautiful face.
Mhm.
Or Sherwick, do you have anything? No? Okay. Well, with that, I really appreciate you guys sitting through this. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sending you an email with the recording of this entire thing. I'm going to be sending you a link to the 6 steps to healing your relationship. And then I also, and I don't care if you've had a discovery call with me in the past or not, now that you've got something that you want to work on, which is your intimacy, I'd really love for you to get on the call with me, and let's make a plan on how you can move forward in building intimacy in your world. Okay? With that, oh, I know the other thing I was going to bring up to you guys is I am starting to work on my new telesummit. You know, all of you came on to my list through my last telesummit. And now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be building another telesummit, and it should be like in the middle of September. But what I'd like to hear from any or everyone here is anything that you yourself personally would like to learn more about in relationship. And the reason being is I want to hear what you have to say. My whole thing is to help you build your relationships. And I want to find the right kind of people that are going to give you the information that you need to make your life so much better. Because, you know, I myself lived in my car at one time. I had no one in my world, you know, at one time, and I was lost, and I actually was suicidal to the point where I just wanted to die. And because of relationships, I have a newfound world for myself. And it's important to me, that's my passion, is to be able to get other people to feel that for themselves. And that's the reason for this webinar in the first place. And this is the reason why I really want to talk to you and get your plan of what you can do for yourself to make intimacy a life project for you that actually lives in intimacy. You know, one of my things that I always say to people is, if I were any better, I'd have to be you. And the reason being is my life is so wonderful right now because people like you are in it. And I'm able to share with you my own personal travels. So I've been there. I've been to any place that you've been, I've probably been there. Even to the fact where I've had a partner that cheated on me. And so, I mean, I've seen it all. So if there is no other comments, you guys are beautiful. I love you all. And I would like you to live in love, peace, joy, and appreciation. Until next time, have a great day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Roger.
Bye.
Bye.